I used to believe wide pants were only for runway models or 20-somethings with legs that never touched. I'm a fashion stylist. I've spent decades learning how to balance proportions and flatter the figure. And yet, the first time I saw a 62-year-old woman walk into my studio wearing a pair of soft, flowing, wide-leg trousers, I froze. Not in shock, but in awe. Because she didn't just look good. She looked free. So here's the truth no one tells you. Wide leg pants, when chosen well, can be the most elegant, ageless, and surprisingly empowering thing you wear after 60. In this video, I'll share how to find the right pair for your body and your life. What to avoid, what to look for, and why this one style might quietly change how you feel every time you open your closet. Let me tell you a story. 2 months ago, I worked with Diane. She's 64, retired early, and swore she was too short and too round for anything wide. But we found a pair in a soft oat linen with a clean front and just the right drape. She wore them with a tucked-in blouse, simple hoops, and a quiet kind of posture I hadn't seen in her before. Later, over coffee, she told me, "I thought I was done dressing like a woman. I didn't know I still had that softness in me." That sentence has stayed with me. Because sometimes fashion isn't about changing who we are. It's about remembering who we've always been. Have you ever bought something and then immediately talked yourself out of it? You see it in the store. It speaks to you, softly, like a memory. The fabric flows, the color feels gentle. And for a moment you think, maybe this could be me? But then, back home, something shifts. You fold it, you hesitate, and you say, maybe not. That was me 2 years ago. I found them on a quiet Tuesday. A pair of wide leg pants in a dusty rose linen, high-waisted, fluid, soft like breath. I just turned 60. I was in that space between wanting comfort, but still craving something beautiful. I slipped them on in the fitting room and stood very still. They didn't pinch. They didn't pull. They moved. And I remember thinking, I look kind. But when I brought them home, doubt arrived quickly. Too pink, too loose, too noticeable. I thought, I'm a stylist. What will people think if I wear something this soft, this feminine? So I left them folded on a shelf, tags still on, like a promise I wasn't ready to keep. A few weeks later, I was cleaning out a drawer of old belts and found one I hadn't touched in years, a leather one I bought in college. Suddenly, I remembered who I was before I began dressing for clients, rules, or trends. I remembered the girl who wore vintage scarves and velvet in July, and without thinking, I reached for those wide pants, paired them with a simple white tee, the old belt, a soft bun, no earrings, just skin and breath and light. I wore them to the farmer's market. And I wasn't trying to impress. I just wanted to feel like someone who hadn't given up on softness. A stranger complimented my shoes, but I knew what really shimmered was the part of me I had almost returned. Because sometimes what we try to return isn't a mistake. It's a version of ourselves we haven't learned to trust again. So if you've got something in your closet that still has the tag on, not because it's wrong, but because it feels too much like the real you. Maybe it's not the pants you're afraid of. Maybe it's the way they let you feel seen. Let's keep going, because once you've taken that first step back into yourself, the next question is, what is it about wide pants that gives us that kind of quiet power? What if the softest thing you wear could be the strongest statement you make? There's something about wide leg pants that doesn't just shift the silhouette. It shifts the energy. They don't cling. They don't beg for attention. But when you wear them with intention, they move with a kind of quiet confidence, like a woman who stopped needing permission to be seen. I used to believe structure meant strength, that neat, tailored lines showed you had control. But the older I got, the more I realized elegance has nothing to prove. It just is. Linda was 68 when I met her, a retired elementary school teacher, tall and soft-spoken. She told me she hadn't worn anything flowy since the early 80s. Too messy, she said. Too much fabric. But when I handed her a pair of wide-leg trousers, cream, high-waisted, linen, she held them like something sacred. "They remind me of my mother," she whispered. "She wore pants like these when we used to go to the drive-in." She tried them on, paired with a chambray shirt, one delicate necklace, and silver hoop earrings. We looked in the mirror together. Her posture shifted, just a little. Her breath slowed, and she said, "I look like myself. If I hadn't tried so hard to disappear." That was the moment I understood what wide pants really do. They don't just flatter the hips or smooth the belly. They hold space for who we are now, for who we used to be, and for the woman still unfolding. Because by 60, we've lived through reinventions. We've shrunk to make room for others. We've worn uniforms for roles, for survival, for silence. But wide leg pants aren't quiet because they're timid. They're quiet because they're sure. And that kind of presence, it can feel revolutionary. The first time I wore mine to a dinner party, I didn't feel trendy. I felt grounded, like I belonged to myself again. No cinching, no squeezing, just breath and fabric that moved when I did. So if you've ever feared being too soft, too wide, too much, maybe that's exactly where your power lives now. Not in holding it all in, but in letting some of it go. And that's the beauty of choosing well. So let's go a little deeper now. Not just into why they work, but into how to choose the pair that works for you. Because elegance isn't found in a store. It's found in the details. Do you remember the first time you dressed just for you? Not for work. Not for someone's approval. Not to look appropriate. But to feel something again. Anything. After my divorce, my closet became a museum. It held the past, perfectly preserved. Blouses he liked, pants that fit a role, shoes I hadn't worn in years. I didn't touch anything soft, nothing that moved when I did. Comfort became armor, and I wore it like a shield. Then one afternoon, I was digging through my summer bin when I found them. A pair of wide-leg pants I had bought in a brief, defiant moment. Light gray linen with a gentle drape and a flat front. I'd never worn them. The tag was still on. I held them up and thought, that's who I wanted to be when I thought I'd still be loved. I almost folded them again, but something small and stubborn, said, not today. So I slipped them on. No shapewear, no makeup, just bare feet and a white cotton tee that still smelled faintly of lavender from the drawer sachet. I stood in the mirror, expecting to judge. But instead, I saw softness. Not weakness, just softness. The kind that says, I've bent, but I'm still standing. Later that day, I walked to the cafe near my house. No big outing, just a coffee and a corner seat. The breeze caught the hem of the pants as I crossed the street, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. A young man held the door open for me. I smiled. Not because I needed it, but because I'd almost forgotten I could. That's what I mean when I say wide leg pants are more than a trend. Sometimes they're a quiet kind of reclaiming, of space, of softness. self. I don't remember what I ordered that day, but I remember how I sat, upright, present, legs crossed gently like I had nowhere else to be. And maybe that's where healing starts. Not always in grand decisions. Sometimes in choosing pants that don't ask you to shrink. So if you've been waiting to dress like someone you remember, someone kind, someone open, maybe it begins here. And maybe the key isn't trying harder. Maybe it's choosing better. Let's explore how. Starting with 5 little details that make a world of difference when choosing the right pair. Have you ever noticed how the smallest detail can make something feel entirely different? A hem that hits just right. A waistband that doesn't fight your body. A fabric that whispers rather than shouts. Wide leg pants aren't tricky to wear, but they do ask for attention. Not for show, for respect. Because when something is loose and flowing, the structure lives in the details. I still remember Joan. She was 67, recently retired, and fiercely independent. "I'm not looking to impress," she told me, "but I am looking to feel right in my own skin." We found her a beautiful pair of navy wide-leg trousers, flat front, soft drape, just brushing the top of her ankle boots. She liked them, but something felt off. So we adjusted the hem, 1 inch up. That was it. She stepped out of the fitting room, caught her reflection, and smiled like she hadn't in months. "That's my waist," she said quietly. "I haven't seen it in years." That tiny shift didn't just flatter her figure. It restored her presence. Here's what I've learned over the years. Elegance isn't loud. It's specific. And the right pair of wide leg pants should feel like they were made for your rhythm. Here are 5 things I always ask my clients and myself before choosing a pair. 1. Length. The pant should either skim the top of your shoes or stop at the slimmest part of your ankle. Too long and they overwhelm. Too short and they cut you off. Tailoring is not failure. It's love in stitch form. 2. Fabric. Choose something that moves with you. Linen, crepe, soft denim, or tencel. If it drapes, it flatters. If it's stiff, it speaks louder than you. 3. Waistline. Most women over 60 feel best in a mid to high rise, especially one that smooths without squeezing. Look for flat fronts, gentle structure, or hidden elastic. The goal isn't to hold you in, it's to let you breathe and still feel put together. 4. Color. Start with grounding tones. Navy, taupe, charcoal, soft white. These don't date. Then, if it feels right, explore gentle prints or pastels that lift your mood without demanding attention. 5. Fit. A tailor can change a $40 pant into a $400 look. A slight taper, a nipped waistband, a cleaner hem. These are the invisible touches that make you walk taller. Literally. I used to think buying pants was about covering my legs. Now, I think it's about honoring the life those legs have carried me through. So the next time you're in a fitting room, pause. Look at the details. The seams, the movement, the way your body responds when you stop criticizing and start noticing. Because when something fits just right, it does more than flatter. It remembers you. It mirrors you. And sometimes it helps you come back to yourself. Let's take this one step further. Even the best pair of pants can lose their magic if worn the wrong way. So next, I'll walk you through the most common mistakes and how to fix them with grace, not guilt. Some outfits don't say wrong. They just whisper, "Not quite you." And most days, that whisper is enough to make us change. Back into something safer. Something familiar, something that disappears before we do. But elegance at 60 isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about recognizing which ones are gently asking to be rewritten. Let me tell you about Marlene. She's 71, retired from the public library, quiet voice, strong opinions, and a soft spot for Earl Grey and pearl buttons. She came in wearing her wide leg pants with a cardigan so long it nearly swept the backs of her knees. "I like feeling covered," she told me. "My shape's not what it used to be." I didn't disagree. I just offered a little swap. A structured blouse in soft cream, gently tucked in the front, sleeves rolled, a necklace that looked like something her daughter might borrow. We stood in front of the mirror. I said nothing. She stared, then said, "I didn't think I could look intentional anymore." That's the power of a graceful fix, not transformation, just remembrance. Here are 5 gentle adjustments that can turn confusion into clarity, without ever changing your shape, your age, or your softness. 1. When the top competes with the pants. Flowy pants with a flowy top might sound easy, but often it creates too much air, not enough you. The fix? Balance. A half-tucked blouse, a cropped knit, or a soft structured jacket brings your shape back to center. 2. When the pants drag. A beautiful pair loses its grace the second it pulls around your shoes. It doesn't make you look taller. It makes you look like you're borrowing someone else's size. The fix? A half-inch hem. That's all. Tailoring isn't indulgent. It's permission. 3. When the shoes shout. Chunky soles or running shoes can weigh down even the most elegant drape. The fix? Pointed flats, sleek sneakers, or block heels that lift gently, just like your posture. 4. When the print wears you. Loud, busy patterns can overwhelm the gentle lines of wide leg pants, especially on a smaller frame or softer style. The fix? Muted stripes, soft florals, or a single color that lets you be the standout, not the fabric. 5. When you think the problem is your body, this one's the quietest but the hardest. You tug at the waistband, you sigh in the mirror, you say, "It's me." The fix? Shift the blame to the pants. Not in anger, but in kindness, because your body isn't a mistake. But clothes that don't honor it are. I've made all these errors, not just in fashion, but in judgment. I've mistaken tight for tailored, baggy for safe, covered for invisible. But wide leg pants taught me something. Your clothes don't need to be loud to make a statement. They just need to tell the truth. And sometimes the truth is, you're still here, you still matter. Let's take that into real life now. Because the beauty of these pants isn't just how they move, it's how they adapt. Let me show you how they work on a Sunday morning. And on an ordinary Tuesday with coffee and friends. Isn't it lovely when one piece of clothing fits more than just your body? When it fits your life? There's a quiet kind of magic in having something you can wear to church. And then wear again for pie and laughter with old friends that same afternoon. No need to change. No need to impress. Just a shift of shoes, maybe a swipe of lipstick, and you're ready. That's the beauty of wide leg pants done right. They move through your day without asking you to perform. You stay grounded, but never stuck. I think of Janet, 66, who once told me she had Sunday clothes and coffee clothes, and they never touched. Church is for polished, she said. Coffee is for comfort. But I asked her one thing. What if polished was comfortable? So we built an outfit around her soft gray wide leg pants. For Sunday morning, she paired them with a crisp white blouse, gentle pin tucks down the front, sleeves rolled just once, low nude block heels, pearl studs, a leather crossbody with a tissue tucked inside, the kind of simple grace that made her walk into church feeling present, not performative. Then, without changing anything but her shoes, she slipped on pale blush sneakers and met her daughter and grandkids at a cafe down the street. She added a denim jacket, took her earrings off, and suddenly she looked like someone younger was borrowing her style. That's when her granddaughter whispered, "Grandma, you look like a magazine." She laughed, but she didn't dismiss it. She let herself receive it. And I think that's something we forget as we age. We can still be seen, not just respected, not just appreciated, but seen as beautiful, as vibrant, as fully present. Personally, I've worn my favorite pair of white leg pants to morning service, a book club potluck, and even an outdoor jazz concert in the same week. What changed wasn't the pants, it was the mood. One day I wore them with a soft sweater and flats. Another with a silk scarf and kitten heels. And once, just barefoot in the backyard while lighting citronella candles. Because when clothes fit your day, you stop asking whether you're dressed correctly. You start asking, does this feel like me right now? So the next time you wonder if you need something new for an event, ask instead, can something I already own shift with me? Sometimes the only thing between sacred and casual is a shoe, a sleeve, or a memory. Let's step into the final part of this story. Not what the pants do, but what they hold, what still lingers in your closet, what stories still live in the fabric you haven't worn in years. Have you ever opened your closet and felt like the past was hanging there, waiting? Not in a sad way, just quiet. Like memories folded into fabric, tucked inside sleeves, stitched into seams. Things you once wore when you felt fully yourself, and maybe things you bought hoping to feel that way again. I recently spent a Saturday morning cleaning out my closet. Not Marie Kondo style. No pressure to spark joy. Just a slow sift. With coffee, with music, and with honesty. That's when I found them. A pair of cream white leg pants with a soft pleat and a thin leather belt loop still attached. I had worn them exactly once. To a garden party my sister hosted 5 summers ago. I remember because I spilled lemonade on the front and spent the rest of the afternoon hiding behind the buffet table. But even with the stain, I never threw them out. Why? Because that day, someone told me I looked peaceful. And I hadn't felt peaceful in years. We all have pieces like that. The pants you kept, even though they're a bit snug. The blouse you wore to your last job interview. The dress you bought for the vacation that never happened. But here's what I've realized. Your closet doesn't just hold clothes. It holds versions of you. The brave one, the hesitant one, the playful, the polished, the grieving, the glowing. She's all still in there. Sometimes we need to let go, but sometimes we just need to look again and ask, what do I want to carry forward? For women over 60, fashion can feel like a farewell, like everything is behind us. But maybe it's a reintroduction. When I tried those pants on again last week, yes, they still fit. I noticed something. I didn't need them to make me look younger. I just wanted them to make me feel seen. And they did. Not because of the cut, but because of the memory they carried and the space they made for a new one. So here's a quiet suggestion. Before your next shopping trip, open your closet, not to purge, but to revisit. There may be something in there that once made you feel beautiful, and maybe it still can. With a different blouse, a gentler eye, a softer purpose. Clothes don't expire. Confidence doesn't either. Sometimes, all it takes is one piece to reconnect you to a part of yourself that's been waiting. Next, let's bring everything together. Not just the pants or the outfits, but the woman who wears them. Because style doesn't chase youth, it carries your wisdom. And it's time to let her shine. So let's take a breath. Let's sit with what we've shared. There was Diane, who almost returned her pants until she remembered how to walk into a room with presence. Marlene, who softened the edges of her self-criticism with a simple French tuck. Janet, who wore hers to both Sunday church and Tuesday coffee, and discovered she didn't have to change who she was in between. And Elaine, who found a forgotten pair tucked deep in her closet, and with them, a memory of peace. These weren't just outfits. They were turning points. Quiet moments where a woman chose to see herself, not through the mirror of aging or expectation, but through a lens of permission. Because in the end, style isn't chasing youth. It carries your wisdom. It reflects where you've been. And if you let it, it can gently point you toward where you're still becoming. If you're watching this, I know you have at least one pair of pants tucked away. Maybe you kept them for a reason. Maybe you forgot why. But here's a question I'd love to ask you. What's one pair of pants you've kept, but never worn? And what part of her story is still waiting to be lived? Let's start a gentle conversation in the comments. Not about trends, not about age, but about memory, style, and the quiet return to self. And if this video felt, even just for a moment, like someone whispered, "You still have it," then I'll be right here with the kettle on,